Have you ever experienced an unexpected grace? The third grace I would like to share is this. I stayed in Naju from June 5th to June 8th, 2001. At that time, in obedience to the negative declaration of the Archdiocese of Gwangju, Mama Julia was living in seclusion and was not meeting with pilgrims, so we were unable to see her as we had before. One evening, as dusk was falling, I stepped out of the chapel and unexpectedly encountered Mama Julia on a narrow, steep hillside path. I was overjoyed. I truly believe that the Lord heard our earnest prayers and allowed us to meet Mama Julia. On that narrow, dimly lit path, Mama Julia smiled warmly and embraced each one of us. A woman named Arai placed her hand on Mama Julia's abdomen. Later she said, there were so many heads inside. I believe the Lord allowed her to perceive this because Mama Julia was offering up reparation for the sin of abortion committed by many people in their place. Mrs. Arai had been unable to walk without a cane. Mama Julia said to her, "Put your cane aside and try walking." "Oh my, I can walk!" she exclaimed joyfully as she walked up and down the hillside path. Then Mama Julia said to her, "Leave your cane behind and go home without it." And she returned to Japan without her cane. Before that, she had barely been able to walk even a single lap around the dining table in her own home without her cane, and she relied on it even indoors. After returning to Japan, she was able to walk to Sunday Mass with her niece, something she had been unable to do for several years. The fourth grace I would like to share is this. This happened during a period when my husband and I were living apart. The morning after we had a minor argument, my husband left home. I soon learned that he was staying at his older sister's house. When I called and asked, "How are you doing?" he replied, "I have hepatitis C." At the time, I knew nothing about hepatitis C, so I bought 3 books and read them. Although I learned that it was a serious illness, I believed that nothing is impossible for God. I wrote letters to my husband about Naju, spoke to him about it over the phone, and even sent him miraculous water from Naju for him to drink. One day I asked him over the phone, "Would you like to come to Naju?" He gladly accepted the invitation. When Mama Julia embraced me, I told her that my husband and I were living apart and that he was suffering from hepatitis C. My husband had already finished receiving his embrace, but Mama Julia called him back. She embraced both of us together with her arms and prayed for us. At that very moment, I believed a miracle had already taken place. There was clear evidence of this. My husband had been undergoing regular medical examinations, and his next test was scheduled 10 days after we returned from Naju. The test result came back negative. Before then, he had been receiving injections twice a week to suppress the disease. After the pilgrimage, however, because his test result was negative, the injections were reduced to just once a month. The doctor said, "This is not a disease that can be cured. Let's test you again in 6 months." But 6 months later, the result was negative again. As a result, beginning in May 2006, he no longer needed the monthly injections to suppress the disease. On November 24, 2006, my husband and I returned to Naju together to attend the anniversary of the fragrant oil and to give thanks for the grace of his complete healing. We also chose that date because November 24th is the birthday of both our eldest son and our second son, who were in special need of prayer. Before I left for the pilgrimage, a friend who had been barely able to make it to the hospital because of severe back pain asked me, "Please pray for me, too." Later she told me, the pain disappeared layer by layer, as though the skin were being peeled away, and within 4 days I was completely healed. Thanks be to God. I would like to share another grace that I received. This took place in 2009. A friend and I had already purchased our airline tickets to attend the anniversaries of Our Lady's Weeping Tears and Tears of Blood in Naju. However, sometime afterward, my husband developed a high fever and became so nauseated that he felt sick even from drinking water. Whenever he lay down on the bed, He felt as though he were going to die, so at night he had to remain seated in a reclining chair. For 2 consecutive days, he was taken to the hospital by ambulance. The doctors could not determine the cause of his condition and told us to wait and observe. On the 3rd visit, he underwent an MRI scan, which finally revealed the cause, and he was admitted to the hospital immediately. The examination showed that a gallstone in his gallbladder had become infected and ruptured, causing pus to spread into his liver. The doctors explained that a normal liver enzyme level is around 30, and that even a level of 100 would be considered alarming. Yet when my husband arrived at the hospital by ambulance, his liver enzyme level was an astonishing 10,000 GPD. The doctor even said, "It is remarkable that you are still alive despite being in such a critical condition." Seeing how seriously ill my husband was, I thought there was no way I could go to Naju. However, once he had been admitted to the hospital, I felt reassured. Then my son said to me, "If the hospital calls, I'll take care of everything. Mom, you should go to Naju." So my friend and I made the pilgrimage together. On the final day in Naju, when I received Mama Julia's embrace, I told her about my husband's condition. She looked very concerned and exclaimed, "Oh my! Oh dear!" Then she prayed for him. Although my husband became nauseated even from drinking plain water, he was able to drink only the miraculous water from Naju without difficulty. After I returned home from Naju, he began eating thin rice porridge. Day by day, he gradually regained the ability to eat regular meals, recovered his health, and was discharged from the hospital after just 13 days. I believe this was the grace of the Holy Mass and the result of Mama Julia's prayers. I am deeply grateful, truly grateful. With all my heart, I thank the Lord and the Blessed Mother, who have appeared in Naju, for bestowing all of these graces upon me, and I give all glory to the Lord. I also offer my heartfelt gratitude to Mama Julia, who always accompanies us with her prayers and continually offers her love and sacrifices for us. Thank you.